They grew up together. They played the same sports. They attended the same schools. Now they even teach together. You're listening to DC and DH on the D&D Dynamite 80s podcast. Let's start another one. Yeah, let's do that. Let's start another one. We got a awesome guest in tonight. Paul Carafotes is joining us.
That's me.
Booch. Vinny Salvucci.
You take my tank. Grab my tape tank. Huh? You take it.
That's right. Save it for the field, Vucci. Save it for the field.
Yeah. Save it for the field. Help me, coach.
Yeah.
Help me.
There you go. Paul, how are you, man?
I am I'm
Busy?
great spirits, and I'm just busy. We got the family, we got kids going, coming, baseball, skating. My daughter's just left school. My wife just took her to skating. We just took the dog into the kennel because we're leaving. Yeah. We got a little trip planned, and it's just had an audition today for a new De Niro movie.
Awesome.
Busy. We just put out the triple play, all three of the original paperbacks of Charlie Bubbles.
Charlie Bubbles, yeah.
And we did a triple play, we call it, and that's available at Amazon. It's a hardcover special edition. And then, of course, we have Charlie's wrote his own book during the pandemic, which I think is fantastic. So
that is great. That is great.
So he's got his own book called Xena the Great, which is our dog. We got our dog just before the pandemic hit.
Right.
Little Morky Poo, beautiful little thing. And she's done wonders for our family, and we're very pleased to have her. My heart is broken.
Yeah.
Because I had to drop her today at the kennel, but
right.
We had no choice.
Right. Well, she's made the book, so that's awesome. That's great stuff. What year in school is your son?
Charlie is a sophomore at CB High School playing on the varsity baseball team. And my daughter just started prep, Flint Ridge Prep, which is a beautiful thing for her.
Yeah.
She's a very, very, very studious academic.
Fantastic.
Very knowledgeable young lady that will tell you what it's all about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's about the age group that I teach. I have freshmen and sophomores.
There you go.
I teach science.
Sophomore.
There you go.
He's very freshman. So
awesome. Let me ask you this about All the Right Moves. Since I'm a football coach as well. Just one of my all-time favorite movies, man. That thing has been, it's a famous football movie. It just is.
Well, it's one of the best. One of the best of its genre.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah. And how did it come about for you? Yeah.
Oh well, back in 1983, I got a call. I had started a movie with Demi Moore called Choices, and just before that, I had done my first starring role was a movie called Heading for Broadway. That was my introductory into the world of, making it to the major leagues. I was 20 years old.
Right.
And that was I worked my tail off. I had to learn how to dance for that. And the second movie, Choices, is I'm a deaf football player who plays violin. So I guess the producers saw that and invited me in for a meeting. And it was one of the all-time great meetings of my young days in Hollywood. I didn't have to read anything. It was just a meeting, and we just all hit it off, and it was fun. And I got a call from my agent saying it was the greatest feedback he's ever gotten on an actor.
Wow.
And they want you to play the lead.
Oh, cool.
I was shocked, but quite prepared.
Yeah.
What turned out was the 20th Century Fox decided to go with Tom, and I was out. And about, 3 weeks later, I got a phone call from my agent saying they liked you so much they wrote a role called Vinny Salvucci, and they want 7 weeks in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, with a week of football practice, and the rest is kind of history.
Absolutely.
So it was an interesting beginning.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be
So you
playing.
thought you had the lead role? Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
they
Cool.
told me I did.
Yeah.
But
Fantastic stuff.
Tom had risky business in the can, so
Uh-huh.
that trumped anything I had. Choices did not fare very well, nor did Heading for Broadway. So and nor did All the Right Moves for all that, for the matter. I mean, if you
Yeah.
think about it, I think it cost about $5 million to make it. It made about $18 million at the box office, and in Hollywood, that's not enough money. If you are lucky enough to be in like Risky Business, for instance, that did about 80 million.
Right.
And,
Right.
and so, we thought on the heels of that, this was going to be a big success. But what I, looking back, we had a great time making that movie. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. The football was, I mean, we did our own stuff.
That's
we
exactly
played.
that's exactly what I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
Wow.
we played against the real teams, the high school in Johnstown and what was it? Aliquippic?
Okay.
Aliquippic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the coach for that team actually was our technical advisor.
Gotcha.
And we shot 7 nights in the rain for that game, that big Walnut Heights game.
Yep.
And at that time, Johnstown, Pennsylvania was really hurting. 7 years before, they shot Paul Newman in the hockey movie. What was it called?
Slapshot. Yeah.
Yeah, Slapshot, right.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get anybody to come to the games because the town was still thriving. So when we arrived 7, 8 years later, there was no more steel business. It was over. They had the flood. So every night that we shot at the field, we had 10,000 people show up. So that was great. So we had a really great, we had the town was behind us. We put a lot of people to work. And I had a lot of fun memories. I mean, Tom and I stole a cop car one night together. We had a lot of fun with the locals.
Yeah. What a cast, though.
Great
I think that's
cast.
this sticks out to me is just the unbelievable talent that was in that movie.
Yeah, Craig T. Nelson.
Yeah.
Craig T. Nelson, who did not want me to fumble.
Really?
Craig would have called all the actors together for a meeting, and he said, Booch, you take the ball and you run for a touchdown. I go,
oh, wow.
Look through my script, I'm looking, I go, it doesn't say that here. Are you signing my checks or is it 20th Century Fox? So it was heartbreaking to have to fumble that ball because I enjoyed. We played. In fact, it's in the movie. You don't know it's Tom and I, but we're practicing, and we have a head-on collision. And he went there. He got a concussion.
Oh wow!
And went to the hospital. So I went with him because I said I got the afternoon off. If he's going, I'm going.
Right. Yeah. So I know the scene you're talking about. At practice where y'all
jerseys on.
Yes. Making the contact. Yes.
Yeah, we hit each other pretty hard. We went the thing about Tom was he took it seriously. He did not suffer fools gladly. So, I was up the same school. So we worked really hard and we, it was intense.
Yeah.
The football stuff was very intense.
Yes. Let me ask this as well. What is it, in the character that you played, especially in that movie, guy that's fallen on hard times, has it rough. Is it tough to play characters that's nothing like you at all? Is that tougher?
Well, that particular character posed a big problem. Even though I was very flattered that they had written the role for me, that character was injected as plot device throughout the movie. And while we were there, they kept giving me little like that. For instance, the Nicotankus, did you take my tape roll? Right. That was supposed to be Leon doing that scene, but they gave it to me. So they liked me and they were trying to add more things with me as the movie went along. But I had an interesting first or second night in Johnstown. I went to dinner with Craig and I had a bunch of notes because at that time I really worked too hard. I did a lot of research. I was trying to develop where this kid was from, what kind of family he had. He's from a broken home. His father was a drunk and a gambler. So, I was trying to develop a through line.
Yeah.
So I sat with Craig and I was telling him all these problems that I have with my character because I wasn't sure how to actually play it.
Yeah.
At that point, and there I was, we were going to start shooting. And I think we were there a week before we started to shoot because we were doing a lot of football stuff. And we had a couple rehearsals. And the only thing they rehearsed with me was the scene where I had to break down in the locker room. So I had to cry, that was weird. I came in, that's the scene they wanted to see. I guess I pulled it off and that was it. But with Craig, at that time, he was in his cups, he was, he liked to have a few beers and he got upset with me at dinner in a strange way because he thought that I was over prepared. And that I was embarrassing him because I had done all this. I had a booklet, as every job I get, I write out from acting school, and so I was trying to develop a through line, like as I said, and it was difficult to do. And I was looking for him as the senior actor. He was older than the rest of us, and he's been around a long time. So I was actually appealing to him to see if I could get him to give me some help and some direction. But apparently I pissed him off.
What about that?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Of course, you were on very, very popular TV series, Knots Landing.
Oh,
how did that come about? Awesome.
That came about.
Remember you as on that as well. That was one of my shows I liked.
Yeah, I did a couple of years. I did about 50 shows.
Yeah.
That was born out of being very pissed off in the waiting room. This is a time when they used to allow smoking. People could smoke wherever you want. And I had just quit smoking. And I was there, and it was loaded with people going in to read, and I thought I'd be next, and I thought it was next, and you get this anticipation and your adrenaline going, and then they call somebody else. So this older fellow lit a cigar, which now I like to enjoy.
Yeah.
And the smoke really bothered me, so we got into it. I said, go outside and smoke, and he said no, and we were almost going to come to blows. And the door opened. The casting director said, Paul Carafotes is next. And I took that energy and brought it in the room. And I auditioned for Harold Dyer, which was the character. Which I don't look like a Harold at all. I couldn't understand that. But and I'll tell you a funny story about that after. But I just brought that energy in, and that was originally supposed to be 2 shows, and that was it. I had a little bit to do with my Uncle Manny, and they just started to develop it, and I ended up doing 50 of them, and with a series regular. And the girls, in fact, I get to see them lately quite a bit. Did a thing with them down in Palm Springs, and we were just at a party on Sunset in West Hollywood, and it's good to see the ladies. I miss Kevin quite a bit. Kevin and I were close. I loved Kevin. That was a lot of fun. They treated me very well on that show. I was constantly going into the writers' rooms trying to get my character to have an affair with Paige, Nicolette Sheridan. Any of the people listening to this will know Nicolette was, she was an 11. So, but they didn't go. They didn't
want to go for that. Yeah.
No. But I was going to tell you another story that was connected to that, but it's escaped me. So what was I going to say about it? It was Olivia, who they paired us up together.
Yeah,
she liked me. She was trying to get me fired. Yeah, she was young. She was about 17 or something, but. I was called into the office and reminded this is a woman show, a female show. The girls run the show. So I took that cue and I behaved myself, even though I was always trying to tease her. And it was constantly, teasing her throughout the process. But we ended up getting along and being pretty good friends. And I haven't seen her in a long time.
Yeah.
Somebody just asked me on Instagram or Facebook am I still in touch with her? But Kevin, I stayed in touch with.
Yeah.
And Kevin, I was able to actually come up with ideas. So like I'd get the script, we get it a week before or a few days before, and I'd read what it was. And if I was in a scene with Kevin, especially, I would say, "Hey, Kevin, let's try. Can there's a famous scene where I actually got my contract, where I'm in Mexico. I've kidnapped him, my uncle and I, but I'm in love with Olivia, and I'm torn because my uncle wants me to, do these things, and I don't want to do them. And Kevin, so we were rehearsing the scene, and the scene called for eggs. And I said to him, what if I chewed up an apple? I have an apple and I'm aggressively eating the apple, and I take the apple out of my mouth and I throw it at you. And he loved it. And when we shot the scene, I did that. And David Jacobs, who's the executive producer, creator of the show, he lost his marbles. He thought that was fantastic. And so Kevin, I owe a lot to Kevin, because Kevin, he let me, if I had an idea, he was very open to it. And he was one of the big shots on the show. So if they, so if they didn't like, the writers didn't like the words being changed or what we did and massage the scene, they would go after Kevin, not me. And Kevin was the big star, so they couldn't say my Kevin.
Right.
So it was
that worked out well.
I owe him a debt of gratitude, which I'll never be able to repay, because that was another good All the Right Moves. And then that was 83, and then it was 87 or 88 when I started on Not Sling. So I was fumbling around Hollywood for I did other jobs and other movies and some TV shows, but Heading for Broadway was number one. That was in 1980. Then All the Right Moves, and then Knots Landing.
Knots Landing came along. Yeah.
Yeah, still. I mean, there's 1,500 groups. Knots Landing fans are diehard fans, and I really appreciate them. Because they do remember me fondly, and they like the character, and I'm lucky because in the scope of things, it was on like 12 or 13 years. I only did 2. And I did season 10, 11, and a little bit of 12, I think. And so 9, 10, 11, and 1 and 12. I don't remember, but it was somewhere around 50.
Around there, yeah. Wow.
So that was a good period, and a lot of good times on that show.
Yeah. I like to always ask this too for our guests, and it's interesting the comments that we get sometimes from it. Why do you think the 80s music, the movies, the TV, why is that so popular with even younger people today? Why does it stick around so much?
Well, my son's, I'm a huge Beatles fan, and I've been able to be with Ringo several times, and George, and I've met Paul, had lunch with Paul. I've even been to London and met Cynthia Lennon and had dinner with her on New Year's Eve. I've met Julian and a couple of Ringo's kids, and so my childhood dreams have all come true in a sense. I mean, I always wanted to be a Beatle, and I was 4 years old when I saw them on the Ed Sullivan Show. So I've had a lot of great fortune, because I met some, my idols, and many of them.
Yeah.
And my son, who's 15, is crazy. We get in the car, he's got the Beatles going constantly.
Yeah.
He asked me questions about them. In fact, I took him to meet Ringo when he was. I haven't seen Ringo in a few years, but there was a time when I was running into Ringo quite a bit, and I took Charlie to see Ringo, and of course, Charlie remembers Ringo from like A Hard Day's Night. Yeah. And so when he met Ringo was 75.
Right.
And Charlie was like, that's not Ringo, Dad. I go, no, it's him. It's just older. You're watching movies. Charlie was like 8 years old. He didn't understand that to him, what he was seeing was happening.
Right.
So so why people? I mean, it's our music too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we're probably the same age or close to it. So I like the 80s music. I love all kinds. I'm very eclectic taste. I grew up with big band. My earliest recollections was my dad taking me to meet Gene Krupa and play his drums at Paul's Mall in Boston. And then the Beatles showed up, and that was it. My father said, that's when I lost.
You were done then,
The Beatles came, that was it. I lost my.
Right. Yeah, it from the short time that we've done this, it just seems like a lot of folks, I don't know, just kind of, gravitate to it. The 80s stuff. The old shows, and I don't know.
Well, the thing about Knots Landing, because I know that they're trying to bring back Dallas and those shows, but I know Knots Landing used the music of the 90s. And at that time, they used a lot of that music that was contemporary. So I don't know how they're going to do it. Like, they're going to not redo, but they're going to clean up all the video and make it Blu-ray or whatever the newest technology is.
Right.
But I think that the hardest part for them is going to try to be getting all the rights to all those songs.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm a product of my generation. Even though I was very young in the 60s, I was just a young boy. I mean, the Beatles influenced the 60s music.
Yep, right.
And I like disco. I used to love to go to the clubs and dance. I mean, I used to hang, a bunch of, my early days in New York at Studio 54.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah.
So, Rex Smith, you might know, he was a teen idol. He sang that song, "You Take My Breath Away," and we ended up in the same movie. And my very first professional audition was for Sooner or Later to play the drummer in the band. And then 6 months later, we were starring in a movie together. So that was very odd.
Yeah.
And we became lifelong pals. And he was a teen idol. And, everywhere Rex went, there was a little trough of women, little girls following him around.
Yeah.
They must have liked that blonde hair. I didn't have blonde hair. Right. But I did okay.
Right. Did all right. Yeah. All right. On to the author. Okay. Paul. How about that?
Well, no, that's like, just so that you folks know, I still work. So I've been on new contemporary shows like Mindhunter, which is on Netflix. I was in Mank, which won a couple of Academy Awards. I just finished the pilot with Darren Sarafian, who's a great director, writer, who, that's a great show. It's a very different character for me. And I think we get to see it finally in October, and hopefully that goes. So there's a lot of new stuff. I was on a Super Bowl commercial for
there you go.
Draftking, which I own some stock in.
Yeah.
So I'm still kicking. I'm not
right.
I'm not stuck in the 80s there.
Right. I got you. Hey, what you need to do is, what would be awesome, you need to do one of those DraftKings deals with the Mannings.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun.
Right.
He's pretty fun. He's a fun dude.
There you go. Hey, maybe they could reenact some of the football scene kind of stuff.
Well, we'd always beat them, so I'm from New England.
Right.
I don't
wouldn't drop the ball. He wouldn't drop the ball this time. Right. Wouldn't drop the ball in this.
He doesn't want to relive all that those painful L's.
Right. There you go. So Charlie Bubbles.
Yes, the books.
Yeah. How did that all come about? Yeah. How'd you want to get involved with doing that?
Well, I had a son named Charles.
Right.
And what happened was, when he was a baby, his mother went back to work very quickly. So I more or less, was the caregiver, and I was with him every day and changing diapers and taking him to parks. And I carry around that little, what is it, Beyond Borg or the little sack,
whatever they call them. Yeah.
So he was a baby, and I used to blow bubbles off my tongue, which I learned at Western High School down in Somerville. And he responded to the bubbles. It made him happy. And he would try to grab at the bubbles. And so I would daydream. At that time, I was writing some screenplays and working on writing, because in between the acting, I'd write. So I'd sit at the kitchen table on my computer and stare out the window looking at downtown Los Angeles. And I would think, I'd blow the bubble and I'd watch the bubble go out the window. And I thought, I wonder, Charlie Bubbles. What if the kid could blow his own bubble big enough that would protect him and he could go on these adventures?
Yeah.
And I was reading a lot of Charlie at the time, and I thought that I could do it better. Now, I mean, there's some books from his youth, when he was a baby, that are my favorites of all time. But there was a lot of books I read that I thought I could do this. I could do this. I could make this attempt. I've written plays and screenplays, and I've directed and all those things. So
right.
I thought, let me try. But it took 5 years to write the first book, folks. It wasn't as easy as it appeared. And it took me 5 years. And by the time the book was close to being finished, he was old enough now to, like, I'd read it to him and he would like this or not like that, or he would pick out, like, oh, there's a mistake in the illustration, that the bear has pants on there and he doesn't have one on. He was very astute.
Yeah.
So he was helping me, and we finally got that first book out. It's about 10 years ago now. And part of the tenets of Charlie is that he is helpful, loving, and kind, which is good things to be, especially in today's world. I mean, if we can get the Democrats and the Republicans to have a little empathy and open some dialogue, maybe there'll be, some
learn a lesson from it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, empathy is a big deal. So Charlie would, go out, he blew the bubble and goes out this window on this adventure, this magical adventure. And he meets Polly Pumpkin, who's so afraid he hides it's a squirrel who hides in a jack-o'-lantern. And then they come across Teddy Hiccup, who's been discarded by a family. It's a social commentation on, like, our elderly in this country, probably. That we discard people easily. And the family had thrown him out because he was old and he hiccuped. So Charlie thought, that's not cool. No, you can come with us. We don't mind the hiccups. And, you're a teddy bear.
Yeah.
And so these three unlikely characters help Charlie find his way home.
Yeah.
So that was the first book. And it was also say yes and anything's possible, because when you say no, nothing happens. So we were finishing the second book, which is one of my favorites in the trilogy, because it incorporates the Beatles music. Charlie's playing the bongos, and it's called Charlie Bubbles to Smartsville, where the ants are very smart, but they don't have any soul. Something is missing. But the Queen sends out her minions to bring back all kinds of things to try to see if, maybe my people, my subjects will like this. And Charlie is playing the bongos, and he's got a caterpillar as a friend, and the caterpillar falls off the windowsill from dancing. And here's the ants. They pick them up, scoop them up, and off they go.
Yeah.
So Charlie's got to make a conscious decision now. He's not a baby anymore. He's got to make a conscious decision to go help his friend. And he does so. And he's got to get to Smartsville somehow, some way. And he's trying to round up his buddies, Polly Pumpkin and Teddy Hiccup. But he ends up going to Smartsville, and there they have three Beatles who are trying to make music, but they're going to end up in this pot, the stew, to feed everybody, because the sound they make is music to the Queen's ears. Music.
Yeah.
And Charlie gets up and gets on the drums, and suddenly it's Antimonium. Joy throughout the world of Smartsville.
Yeah.
And so the Queen has a metamorphosis, and Charlie, he didn't realize what he was doing. He was just trying to help the band. And joy rains down in Smartsville, and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So then while that was getting ready to come out, Charlie said to me, "Dad, is it going to be a third book?" And I was stumped, because I didn't have an idea I didn't even think we'd have book 2. And I couldn't very well say no, because one of Charlie's tenets is say yes and anything's possible.
Right.
So I said to Charlie, who at that time was probably about 8 years old, "Yes, there's going to be a third book, and you're going to help me write it. What do we call it?" And he was a big baseball fan, a big Red Sox fan. I'm from Boston. He spent a lot of time in Boston. He said, "Charlie Bubbles to Fenway."
Fenway, yeah.
So I took that, and we ended up getting to Boston and meeting Big Poppy, brought him in the dugout, hung out with Big Poppy. So the book, when I was on Knots Landing or in these movies or whatever, nobody from the Red Sox invited me anywhere. I'd go to games. When I was on Knots Landing, I couldn't watch the game because people would line up, want autographs and pictures. But I never got invited.
Yeah.
I got invited to go to the dugout at Fenway because of the books.
The books, yeah.
So that was a big treat for us. And And
Cool.
now it's been a few years. I finally found a new illustrator, a young girl, 19-year-old. Her name's Harper Pam, and I met her dad at one of Charlie's high school baseball games, and he had just seen me on Mindhunter. So he wanted to talk to me about Mindhunter, but I was like, I've been trying to find somebody a new illustrator, hired people. It didn't work out, this and that. It was years of in search of. And he said, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "I got this problem. My son wrote a book during the pandemic, and I also had written one as well." I said, "But I'm dying to get somebody on this to illustrate it." And he said to me, "My daughter is an illustrator." And you know how many times I've heard that? How many people have told me, my wife, my daughter, my brother, my sister,
right.
My cousin, my mother, my sister. Yeah, I heard that.
But it worked out. It worked out that time.
Well, I just said, "Hey, have her go online, look at one of the books, and copy a couple of the covers and send me something." And she did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And then I sent a paragraph of Charlie's new book, and she made a few drawings of that, and I hired her. And we're so close. We're almost finished with we got about 6 or 7 pictures left to go, and then we got to lay it out, and then we'll upload it. And my son will have his
off
first.
It goes.
He's
fabulous. Fabulous.
Yeah. It's called Charlie Bubbles, Xena the Great. It's about our dog. Xena.
There you go. Awesome.
And you can find this gang on Amazon or
go to that was my next question.
Books.
There you go.
CharlieBubblesBooks.com.
Or on Amazon.
CharlieBubblesBook.com.
Fantastic.
And we also started a nonprofit called Charlie Bubbles Cares for Kids, where we raise money and then we give books to preschools to 3rd grade. We go to children's hospitals all across the country, kids with cancer.
Fantastic.
Kids that, less fortunate, we give out books. So we raise money, and you can do that by visiting the website, charliebubblesbook.com. You can go to PayPal or Venmo. It's all there on the website. Joe Montana from Criminal Minds has a little video up there asking for some help.
Great. And we'll put that stuff out on our media site too. We sure will.
That would be great.
Paul, my friend, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And I want to say hi to all the fans on Instagram. Everybody loves Knots Landing, all the right moves, Mindhunter, Criminal Minds, all the shows. Thank you so much. God bless. And let's have a safe and healthy rest of the year.
Absolutely, my friend. Give a shout out to.
I just want to have a shout out to my wife, Tony Ann, who may or may not be watching this. She's probably
there. You go.
But I want to just tell her that I love her and she's the greatest.
Absolutely. Hey, give a shout out to how everyone can follow you.
I'm sorry?
Give a shout out to all the ways that people can follow you.
Oh, they can follow me at everything is the Adventures of Charlie Bubbles on YouTube.
There you go.
There's lots of videos. We have a CD of music that is compatible with the books, all the characters, the songs about them.
Right.
Instagram, Adventures of Charlie Bubbles. You can go to Facebook, Adventures of Charlie Bubbles, or you can find me at Paul Carafotes on Facebook. And those are the ways you can do it. But Charlie Bubbles Book, you can go to there. You can go to charliebubblesbooks.com and you can sign up for all that stuff. It's all listed.
Awesome.
You just have to click it. It's a one-stop shop.
One-stop shop.
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
It very so. The website again is charliebubblesbooks.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was great.
The best to you and your family.
Thank you very much, and you too. And your partner who's actually going to work tonight for a living.
That's right. That's right.
You say hello.
Take care, my friend.
You tell him I said hi.
I sure will. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.